Hey everyone, welcome to the 262 Market Report. It's our first market report for 2024. I can't even believe it. I'm Jennifer Zeller, the Red Shoe Realtor with Abundance Real Estate in the Milwaukee area. So we're going to cover a few things today. We're going to cover inventory, we're going to cover rates, and we're going to cover kind of what we expect to see maybe the rest of this year. So let's start with rates. Rates kind of ended on a hopeful note at the end of 2023. Throughout a lot of 2023, the rates were in the sevens. Toward the end of 2023, rates started to drop down to rates that we had seen toward the end of 2022, down into the sixes, 6.7, 6.4, not 6.4, 6.6. If you look at this graph here, what it shows you is that rates are still higher, though, than the last 14 years. I think a lot of times that we hear people say, well, my parents said they paid 18%, 12%, whatever. True. But the fact is, if you look at this graph one more time, over the last 14 years, rates have really been around the 4 or the 5. So it wasn't that outrageous that we had rates in the 2s and the 3s. Granted, we probably won't see that for a really long time again, but I think us being up in the 6s and the 7s, if you look at the 14-year average, that's going to be high. And so I think that's why we do see buyers kind of being a little more cautious. It's not that, our parents always like to say, and I'm a parent now, I'm a grandparent, but I had to walk to school in the snow. I had 12% rates. Sure, but in the last, 15 to 20 years, they really have been consistently around 4%. I think going forward this year, the rates are still going to be in the 6s, because once rates kind of reach when the 10-year reaches the 4% rate, it hovers there for a couple of years. And when the 10 years at 4%, what we're seeing, that's what's leading to our 6 rates or 7 rates. The Fed has said that they're going to lower their rates 2 to 3 times this year. That remains to be seen. I don't know if by the Fed just saying they're going to lower the rates 2 to 3 times this year, we saw a bump in the market, in the financial markets. So, they have some power by just even saying that they're going to drop the rates. It would be nice if the rate from the real estate market, if it does drop a couple of times this year, that remains to be seen. And if you look, let's see, if you look at this, where are we at here? So when we're looking at this right here, you can see in 2020, it was really low for about really 2021, it was in the 3 area. 2022 is when we saw that huge spike up. And then in 2023, it was more consistent. It's leading down at the end of the year. All right, so what would cause it to drop further? And this is opposite of what most people think. But when the job market is really, really good, the rates are not going to drop. So when we're getting good jobs reports like we did last week, the rates bumped up a little bit. And it's kind of in reverse. But the things that can bring the interest rate down are jobs. The other thing that can bring it down is inventory. And the other thing that could cause it to normalize is brain freeze. So anyways, those are the main things that can bring the market down. All right, let's talk about inventory. So I have an interesting graph here. I was looking at the inventory in Ozaukee County. And so if you look at overall Cedarburg inventory, the 2023 line is the black line. And you can see 2023, 2022, 2021, our inventory in Cedarburg was really, really low that whole time. Now let's kind of look at inventory in Mequon. So these are 2 communities right next to each other. You would think that would be really similar. But actually it's not. Look at the black line for Mequon. It was actually at the highest rate of inventory than it had been any of the last 10 years, which is really incredible when you think about it, because you hear nationally inventory so low. And if we were just going to talk about Cedarburg, inventory's been so low. But that's why it's really important that when you talk with your agent, you know locally what's going on. And I mean hyper local, because just one community in Ozaukee County. Let's look at those 2 again. Cedarburg. Here's Cedarburg. Black line, consistently low, lower than it's been for the majority of the last 10 years, other than the last 3. Mequon's rate is way higher. Started out at the beginning of the year, was kind of lower, in 2023, lower than the other 10 years. But then starting in June, it really spiked up and it led the pack as far as having the most inventory. So what does that mean? If there's a lot of inventory, that means it's sitting there a little bit. And that's kind of what we noticed in our market here. Cedarburg homes, they didn't last on the market. Prices maintained. There wasn't a lot of homes coming off the market, expired. In Mequon, especially in the higher ranges, homes sat longer, some expired. The other thing to look at, so your agent needs to be hyper local. You can't just talk about one city or the other. But the other thing it's important to look at is, let's see here. We want to look at the quartiles. So what do your quartiles look like? And this is, did I have the right graph up? This is, okay, so you're looking at quartiles here for nationally for Mequon. And you look at these are different prices for, not prices, but the different ranges, each quartile, highest, upper, lower, lowest. And for the highest quartiles in Mequon, they were hanging on to the market longer. If you see the red spike, that's the upper quartile. So those homes were sitting there longer than if you look at the lower graph. That's the lower, I think it's the bottom. So look at the two difference in the graphs, the way the difference that they're taking. Starting in about July, the upper level was sitting, but in the lower level was going. So to take it back, what we really need to know is what's going in the market I'm looking at, but not only that, what is going on in the different quartiles. Because if you just came into Mequon and you thought you were going to buy a house last year in the second quarter, and you were going to go in the lower range, you wouldn't have to go over, you'd be wrong because that lower range was flying. But if you were going to list a home and you were in that upper quartile and you thought you were going to list it, get a couple offers the first weekend, you might be sitting there. So it's really important that your agent educates you about your area, your quartiles, get real specific. All right, the next thing that we wanted to talk about is, 1 second. All right, so let's look at the number of listings that we saw in 2023 compared to 2019. Back up 1 second. Whoa, so why are we talking about 2019? That's kind of the last year that we saw a quote-unquote normal market. Again, that's, a generalized term, but that's really when there was generally what we've had on the market. That was generally what the interest rates have been over the last 10 years. So if you look, this compares each week of the month of 2023 compared to 2019. Every week we had lower inventory. Where's my graph? Every single week we had lower inventory. So what we're hoping is in 2024 that this starts to recover a little bit and we start to see a little bit more inventory. Again, like it kind of just we were talking about in Mequon, it depends on your quartile, Mequon to Cedarburg, but overall we'd like to see more inventory. What we noticed in 2023 that the affordability was at an all-time low. So if we're getting more inventory overall in each county in southeastern Wisconsin, each city in southeastern Wisconsin, we're going to get affordability. Because what I can see is like Michelle and I, we have a lot of clients sitting on the fence. Should we get in? Shouldn't we get in? One of the reasons that's stopping them from getting in is there's nothing to look at. So if we get more inventory, if rates kind of creep down into the sixes, I feel like there's going to be more sellers coming on, more buyers getting back in the market. Because, one thing sellers are aware, like, do I want to list my house right now? Rates are high. Maybe people aren't going to look. So I just feel like really toward the middle to the end of 2023, there really became a bottleneck. Sellers knew maybe they didn't want to list. Buyers are super cautious. I feel both of those are kind of loosening up right now. So what can we look forward to this week? This week, Consumer Price Index comes out on Thursday. Again, it matters not just what the price is, but what they were expecting it to be. So we'll give you more information on Thursday. Where to look, go to our social media. We give you, that's where you get the really super timely information. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, with our weekly 262 report. If you have any questions, how your hyperlocal market is doing, what's coming on the market, how long are things sitting, make sure you reach out to Michelle or I. Have a great day, and thanks for hopping in the 262 Market Report.